Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, folks, we're on track for another show on the Investigative Journal on this Monday. Get seated, sit tight, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and remember to listen to this show, you have to declare your sex on your birth certificate. No changing along the way and heading into bathrooms that say women's when you were born a man. None of that stuff here on this program. And also no politically correct nonsense. We don't like it here. It really waters down arguments. Just say what's on your mind. You know, I was thinking about that today, how differently we talk and how differently we think in 2019 compared to the way people thought even 50 or 60 years ago. Everything is a conflict, and everything is getting blown out of proportion. If you say one damn thing, I was listening to the Oscars last night in my office as I was working on an opposition motion to dismiss by the defense attorney in a case that was about solar energy in Hawaii. Yes, and I started thinking, wow, that reminds me of OAC, this 29-year-old buffoon congresswoman. Wow, is she a trip or what? Have you listened to her? I have to sit here and think, is this, coming out of a conspiracy theory convention about socialism? Or where's Gene McCarthy now? Where's McCarthy now? She would have been locked away and banished during the McCarthy era. And now they're openly talking about socialism in America. Bernie Sanders, did you realize he just announced for presidency at 77 years old? By the time he gets done, he'll be 100. Not to say that old people can't govern, but, I'm not going to pay all the extra money for 2 escorts to get him on an airplane. I don't know about you. I don't like that. But anyway, this OAC, Miss Cortez, they love saying her name, Alessandro Cortez, right? They love saying it. And, it's interesting, but she just pops on the scene this year, and the left wing and the right wing are giving her more press than anybody. And she said the other day, this really upset me, she said, we shouldn't be eating 3 hamburgers a day. And something, we don't need to have cow flatulence, which means cows farting. And then she said she wants to take away my car. Then she says I can't travel on an airplane. And then she says I got to live in government housing or something. They're going to retrofit every building in America. And I'm going, okay, OAC. Put your money where your mouth is. She's making $175,000 a year living in a really plush apartment building in Washington, D.C., and probably thinking about how to invest all her money and get rich. So she can fly on the airplanes while all us peons, walk to the grocery store or take a bicycle like they do in Vietnam. What a trip. And guess what? I found out that the senator that supports her in the Senate is none other than a guy from Massachusetts, a Jesuit from Boston College, named Mr. Malky, who's been there since 1972. He hasn't got a job in his whole life. He went to Boston College, then he went to Boston Law School. He hasn't worked a day in his life. He gets taxpayer money, and he's sitting there supporting her. Now that's a Jesuit for you. They're going to lead you right into socialism. And, for all you people out there who really think that people, like yesterday I listened to the Oscars, and it was a, kind of one of those, typical Oscars. I only saw one of the movies, Roma, and I wasn't that impressed with it. but the director won the Best Director award, but I'm getting off track here. But, Spike Lee got on and gave his old, we got to get rid of, he didn't say it, but Trump is hate. We got to go back to a world of love. When has the world ever been a world of love? I don't know where these guys get off at. It's never been that way. As long as I've lived, and probably before that, we've been at war for 200 of almost all of but 22 years that we've been a country. We've been at war, so what the hell are they talking about war? All they're doing is self-serving their own interests and acting as if they really care about the peons out there who watch their movies. They don't. Spike Lee's a millionaire. And he did this movie, Black Klansman, and then the other one is Black Panther. And I was thinking, what's the next movie? Black Horse Shit? I mean, come on. How about Polish Panther or Polish Klansman? They forget that people, these guys like Spike Lee, they get into this thing. Oh, now we got to get reparations for all the slaves. We want money for slaves. You weren't a slave, Spike, ever. You was your grandfather, and, it's ridiculous. Hell, I want reparations because half my family was killed in Poland because the United States wouldn't go over. They knew about Hitler in the 1930s. They could have saved all those Jews and my family. I want reparations. Why the hell not? There's never been a country in the world more oppressed than Poland, and you think I'm sitting here complaining about it, Spike? Enough of this crap. He's telling this is the real way that America is racist. Well, sure, there's going to be some racist people, but you know what? I think there's more black racist people than white, especially in Hollywood, because they just really can't stand anybody, especially unless the producer's white and he's got a lot of money. Then they like him, So it's all a bunch of hypocrisy. But, excuse me, getting back to the Oscars, I had to watch Lady Gaga give her sad speech. She almost started crying because she said, "Oh my God, I am so great, but I had to work so hard." She says, "This is work." Lady Gaga, you don't know what work is. Singing a song, doing all that garbage on stage, that's not work. Do you really know what work is? You don't. You're a great singer, appreciate it, but don't give me that crap. And then she gives me this, every woman and every person out there, don't lose hope. Hope, you got to work hard. You got to do this. Never give up on your dreams. Oh, hell. What about the American dream? That all you people in Hollywood don't want to see anybody partake in but your little selfish selves that make millions of dollars. And you sit there and you basically look, as soon as that show's over, they're all getting high or drunk at some party, and they forget immediately what the hell they said, and they're probably on to their next little project where they get paid $10 million or something. So, I'm getting so fed up with those people. If they just came out and realized that their profession is no different than a plumber or no different than a guy who knows how to do electrical work, that's a difficult shit. Or a guy who knows how to build a building, guy who knows how to lay concrete. You ever try to mix concrete? It's difficult. I bet you she couldn't do it. But these people, they think they're exalted kings and queens or something. They think they're doing something so special. You're an entertainer. That's all there is, and there's too many of you. The whole world's an entertainer now. I was having breakfast the other day, and this guy comes up to me. The waiter wasn't a guy coming up, and going, "Hey, are you a homo?" No, I'm not, and I'm offended that do I look like one? What are you talking? No. So my waiter comes up to me, and we start talking, and he's talking in Spanish, and I'm, I can understand it. I talk half Spanish, half Italian now, and we're talking. He says, "I want to be an actor." He wants to be an actor, young kid. And so I was saying, do it, go to Hollywood. Oh, I can't. I need my visa. I said, well, what the hell are you doing here? He said, well, I got to go back to Tijuana every day, and I can't leave. Every time I go to Los Angeles, I got to tell people where I'm at, I said, well, good luck. But anyway, you're getting a lot more entertainers now than there used to be. I mean, before, I remember one of the most refreshing things that ever happened to me And if you're getting the drift of this show, it's really not talking about anything important because I'm so sick and tired. I turned on the news today. Well, let me tell you first my enjoyable experience. When I was in Italy, living there for 7 years, the best part of it was the beginning when I didn't understand any people. It was fantastic to live that way. You know, I was in my world, they were in their own. We seemed to smile, enjoy each other. We could eat, we could have fun, but there was no conflict because I couldn't speak. So anyway, I go to get a haircut, and you know, going to get a haircut in Italy is like a big deal. It isn't like here, you know, you go to the haircuts for $10, they don't even talk to you. There you get a whole big, huge, you know, massage on your head. They put stuff on your head, nice towel, warm towels, give you a shave. You know, the barber tells you about his whole family and life. By the time you leave there, you feel like you're his brother. So I met one barber. I went to this place on purpose. I was walking by. I was not near Via Veneto. I was near Via Cavour and Via Serpente. If you ever go to Rome, look up that corner. It's really a neat place. I used to live a couple blocks from there. But anyway, I heard him singing, so I went in there, and he wasn't singing. And I said, boy, you sound really good. He says, yes, I love to sing the opera. So he started singing. And the guy sounded better than Pavarotti. Let me tell you, I said, what are you doing being a barber? You should be a singer. You know, there's singers in America. They're making millions of dollars, and they don't have half the voice you have. And he says, well, the reason I'm not a singer is because I'm a barber. I said, yeah, but can't you be a singer and switch being a barber? He said, no. My family for generations have been barbers. I learned to be a barber. I don't want to be a singer. Who wants to be a singer? I don't like that life. I said, what if you could make $1 million? He said, you can't take it with you. And I said, well, what do you mean? He says, all you need is a pair of shoes and a good meal. I said, well, how about a haircut? He said, well, yeah, you need money for a haircut too. So anyway, what I'm getting at, you know, you go into a barber here in America, one of these millennials, or even kids that grew up with me, you know, we were suspect to it too, objected to it. We were brainwashed when we were baby boomers. You know, you go in there and the kid's a barber and he's, you know, I hate this job. I said, well, get that damn scissors out of your hand if you hate it. I want to be an actor. Just like Bradley Cooper, you know. And I said, who, Gary Cooper? Who's Bradley Cooper? He said, well, who's Gary Cooper? I said, well, Gary Cooper is Gary Cooper. Bradley Cooper is some, I don't even know who he is. Oh, didn't you see the movie Hangover? I go, no, but I've had a few. But anyway, I digress. So, look, you're getting the drift of this show. I turned the TV on and there was this senator, blonde, it's not her real color hair. Not that I care. But she's there going, did you realize that all of our, first responders at 9/11 are dying, and we've cut their, the last Congress cut the money for their treatment. This is, 20 years after, or 18 years after 9/11, and now they're talking about how the first responders are dying now because of what, the toxic chemicals they were breathing when they were cleaning 9/11. And she goes, we should never forget. We got to get more money. Every senator, every congressman, listen to me. We must never forget these heroes. And I'm going, yeah, the government kills them. Now you're going to help them, but you don't have enough money and they're dying. And does anybody ever really talk about 9/11 was an inside job again? You bring that up and they're going to go, oh my goodness, he's a terrorist. Are you with ISIS? Are you a Muslim terrorist? I said, no. I'm an American citizen who researched what the hell happened at 9/11, and damn if it wasn't an inside job. And we don't want to get into the facts because we don't want to ruin your story. Because as Twain said, you heard the old saying, never let the facts get in the way of the government's story, right? The government's story is that box cutters and a few Muslims hijacked an airplane, a jet, 2 jets or whatever, 3, and they can't even fly a Cessna. And everybody believes it because the government said it. And you know how they do it? They say the same thing 10 minutes after they knew who did it. And 18 years later, they say the same damn thing. And everybody believes it. And as the years go on, people will die that know the truth, and then they'll rewrite history, and nobody will know a damn thing, just like they did in the Lincoln assassination, just like they're doing in the Kennedy assassination. Then I heard, with Kennedy, they're not releasing, why do they hold these documents? Oh, we're releasing the documents 50 years after John F. Kennedy's death. It was all secret. Why? Now everybody around there is dead or dying, so now you're going to release it so you can spin your story some more? It's exactly what they do. So I got up today and I listened to this garbage, and I go, I can't deal with this. Okay, I got to do a show. I got to do a radio show about this stuff, and I'm sitting here going, my goodness gracious, what has this world come to? We're into that. We have so much shit happening every day. You know, I don't know which one to follow. You know, it's like your mind goes, wow, should I go to Venezuela today? Should I go to Vietnam? Oh, Vietnam in the 60s? No, Vietnam today, because Trumpy boy is over there talking to Rocket Man about peace. You know, I don't know why, and the whole big caravan of American journalists are there. They went there yesterday, the day ahead of them. They're walking through Vietnam, doing personal stories, you know. What do you think of Trump? And this Vietnamese guy gets on there and goes, but peace with Rocket Man. And I'm going, what the hell's he doing? I can't understand a word. They don't have a translator. And then he goes over, the journalist, he goes to one of their little restaurants and said, hey, could I try some of your food? And he takes the food from the guy, and I'd say, get the hell out of here. It's my dinner. Buy. You got millions of dollars. Buy your own food. Oh, it's too hot. Well, then get the hell out of here then. I can't believe it. It's like, and then they say, well, look at Vietnam. They're our friends now. Yeah, we destroyed them, and now we give them money so they're our friends. Now, years later, we meet the Rocket Man there for peace. Now let's go. Rocket Man and Trump work for the same employer, the Jesuit and National Commission of Deceivers. That's who he works for. The Jesuit order, the Vatican, they're all there, one on one side, one on the other, and they're going to play this game. You know, I'd love to see their meeting, the real meeting, and what they really say. And, you know, they each have a translator. If he doesn't speak English, he better speak English. And then they kill each translator. They die of some kind of, get hit by one of those little rickshaws in Vietnam, so that they're the only two people that know what they really said. But if he spoke English, or if Trump speaks Korean, which I heard he does. I heard Trump speaks North Korean. Yeah. And I heard he was a North Korean spy. All right. Not Russian. He's a North Korean spy. So let's start that up, Congress, huh? Why don't we get that going? That'll keep the American people occupied for another year or two. Just like you did with this Russia hoax. And everybody that doesn't understand what that really is going on say, Greg, you support Trump. I said, you know something? All I would say is this. I would vote for him as the top political actor in 2019. He takes the cake. He's better than Kennedy, better than Clinton. Clinton was good. Better than, Bush. He couldn't even be a character actor. And then we had Obama, who I don't know what he was, he was so goofy. And his transgender wife, Michael, or whatever he called her, 2 times. I can't understand. Now the Democratic Party's going, we can't have a white person in as a president. No, we can't have a white person. Impossible. So they got to pick from what? You got a lot of colors. You know who I want to be president? I want a Chinese president. That's right. So you guys can get along with your game a little quicker and turn this country into China like you want to do. Get a Chinese president this year, Democrats. Wing Sun-hu is running for the Democratic presidency against Donald Trump. And then somebody says, he doesn't even speak English. I said, that's good. You know what? We'll have a great time with him. We don't need him to speak English. Just put him up on the chair, have the Jesuits give him his speech, and then translate it for him. That's all. And maybe we won't have as much problems in the world when the president can't speak our language. Because surely, let me tell you this, even though technically these presidents speak English, they don't speak our language. They're speaking occult. Do you ever see Trump? I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I even noticed it when I watched him do a David Letterman interview in 2013. Trump, every time you get him from a waist-up shot or sitting in a chair, he gives you that upside-down triangle with his fingers. And you know what that is? I mean, what more can Trump be telling all of his partners, at the Vatican, at the Jesuit order, at Georgetown, Clinton, the rest of them? I'm one of you guys. Don't worry about it. Even though I wasn't in Skull and Bones like George, I'm one of you guys. I'm a builder. I'm a Freemason. Yes. So we got crazy stuff going on with people. And that's why today I just cannot get on track like I said I was with one big story, because they're all just floating around in my head like, okay, Venezuela. Okay, should I go to Vietnam? Oh, I can't go there. I remember I almost went there. I don't know about you guys, but I was very close to being in the Vietnam War. That's outdates a lot of you people. But I lucked out. I wasn't from a rich family, didn't get a deferment. I was in what was called the first lottery. Yeah, they needed boots on the ground. And so every birthday got a lottery number. And mine was 154. And they were drafting from 195 down, so I got my draft notice, went to Chicago, stood in line with all these people trying to throw up and pop pills to say, oh, I'm a 4F. And I passed my physical, came back. They said, you'll get your notice to go to Fort Bragg or Fort Meade or wherever the hell you go in 6 weeks. So I'm walking around the university, and I see all these. There was the Navy, the Army, the Air Force. I said, well, I think if I'm going to die, I think I'll take it up in the air, get closer to God. I'll be flying. They'll shoot me down. I'll be a pilot or something. So I went to the Air Force guy. I said, hey, can I join? I said, listen, I just went to do the Army thing, but they haven't called me yet. He said, sure, we can supersede that. So I said, I'll come back, because they said 6 weeks. So I was just going to come back on that Monday. 3 weeks had passed, or 2 weeks. And I was sitting in my favorite bar, Walt's Tavern, back then, where beers were 25 cents. Can you believe that? Ladies' night was 10 cents a beer. Now, can you imagine how you can live back then? I think my apartment cost only $50 a month. This wasn't in the 1800s, folks. So anyway, I'm listening to Walter Cronkite, and he said, folks, we want to announce that the draft numbers have dropped to 125 and below. So if your number is between 125 and, imagine being number 125, and below, you still got to go. I was off. Oh, did I get hammered that night. But anyway, I never had to go. And luckily for the Air Force and the Army, I didn't go. I always remember the great George Carlin talking about how he got kicked out of the Army. George, I love him because he does a thing on how many jobs he got fired from. And it's a funny little sketch. George was not your 8 to 5 company man, so to speak, and I could just imagine him in the Army. And he told a story. It was crazy. But anyway, we've completely destroyed 25 or a half hour here with nonsense. But isn't it fun sometimes just to let it go? I'm doing this because I can't afford to go to a psychiatrist anymore with what's going on in the world. And I never did go to one. But I'll tell you a story about how I dated one and got away with not having to pay anything. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app, for all of your mobile devices. Streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Visit crosstheborder.org, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, boys and girls, we're back again, second half hour. Hope you enjoyed the first half hour. And this half hour, I'm not talking that much. I'm not giving out. I kind of call what I did in the first half hour like semi-comedy. I don't know what you call it, or just spouting off at the mouth. But since I don't get much for this show, I'm not going to do an hour of that. You know, I got to have limits, right? It's worth something, isn't it? Maybe not. Maybe I should pay you to do it. Like everybody that publishes their own books now, you know. Everybody like Mark Twain said, thank God for illiteracy. Just think how many bad books you don't have to read. Can you imagine now what he would say? Man, everybody, okay, publish your book. Everybody publishes their own book. You know, what the hell's the sense of it, to be honest with you? How much time do you think people have? There's 350 million, not many people in America. And everybody writes a book, excluding the people who can't write, which boils it down to like 50,000. You still can't get through all those books. But anyway, I'm done. I sometimes find stuff to put on because I'll tell you the real importance. I've got to go and listen to spring training baseball. Yep, baseball has started, folks. Another year. This year the Cubs are going to win it again. I say that every year, and I've been right once out of the last 109 years. So let's see if the odds in Vegas are better. Some people are saying they're going to come in last place in their division because they did not do any trading over the off season. I don't think so. But anyway, I've got to go watch a spring training game. And boy, if I had my way, people ask me, what would you like to do the rest of your life? I think I'd like to just go to every Cub baseball game until I die. And that'd be it. Just follow them everywhere. Go from every spring training game to every game. And that leads me to thinking, We won't be able to do that in the socialist OAC, Ocasio-Cortez world, because I'm opposed to her idea of banning all fossil fuels. She says no more airplanes, and I'm going, are you kidding me? How are my Cubs going to get from New York to LA in one day? They just finished a night game in New York, right? And it went 16 innings, so they're late, and they got to be in Los Angeles to play the next night at 7 p.m. How the hell are they going to do it without an airplane? So forget about her. She's not ruining baseball for me. They've ruined everything else in this country, but they're not ruining that. So anyway, enough. You guys got enough of me today, right? Yep, I know you have. I know when I've reached my limit, I start getting phone calls. Shut up, shut up, shut up, please. You're killing me. But anyway, so what did I find for you that could fill the gap here? How about the lies of Disney, NASA, and the Freemasons? And how about Masonic SRA survivor Carly Franz? Okay, so Carly is a survivor of the SRA Masonic Lodge, and her video has garnered 150,000 views. This video, she says, is about how Disney and NASA are intertwined through their Freemason lies in order to mind control the population with disinformation. NASA uses its funding to continue their computer-generated images instead of telling us there is no moon that far away, there is no sun that far away, there is no Mercury and all those planets they made up. But then they wouldn't get their money. What was it, $95 million a year or more? Okay, so she got a lot of views on this too. A lot of, how many comments? Many. Wow. Let's listen to what she has to say. And I'm going to preface it by saying I don't know, so don't hold it against me if you don't like it. Okay, here we go. I may not like it and shut it off. Here we go.
Of 2019, and I found a really important video that I want to share with you all on YouTube. I want to give a huge shout out to the person who made this video. It's called ODD-TV, and I'm going to put a link in the description bar if you want to rewatch this video. This person has done a great service in finding all of this information, all of these clips, and compiling them for the public to go over and to digest. I know it's a lot, however, I think it's really important that you watch this. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera to my computer and play the video. However, if you want to watch it on the ODD TV channel, the link is in the description. Please go ahead and watch it. However, this video is in regards to Disney, the Freemasons, and the lies of NASA. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you right now.
Okay, I thought she was doing her own. She's doing what I'm doing.
So let's talk a little more about this Buzz Aldrin clip where he subtly admitted that we didn't go to the moon. I've been getting a lot of comments on my last upload of that very clip. People say he was only talking about how we didn't go back to the moon. Let's run the clip.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
To me, Buzz is flat out saying that we didn't go. Buzz, why haven't we gone back to the moon?
Because we didn't go there. We didn't go there. We didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
Now, this isn't just some sudden realization. This isn't the evidence. Though I'm glad that Buzz came clean, there is much more information available to show us that outer space is not what we are led to believe. let's go over a timeline that I made. I tried to keep it as simple as possible. Alright, so in 1915, NACA was founded, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. NACA was established by the federal government, and their mission statement was, "It shall be the duty of the Advisory Committee for Aeronautics to supervise and direct the scientific study of the problems of flight with a view to their practical solution." In 1923, Disney was founded. Walt Disney, of course, grew up in the Demolay, a young boy's version of Masonry. Continuing on, in 1936, JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, was founded, in part by Jack Parsons, an avid follower of Aleister Crowley and a member of his fraternal organization, the OTO, Ordo Templi Orientis. Jack Parsons also hung out with L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of the Church of Scientology, which holds sci-fi-like religious beliefs, including the belief of a galactic dictator named Xenu. Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard both practiced black magic and participated in sex magic rituals together. In 1954, Walt Disney and the father of rocket technology in the United States, Wernher von Braun, meet and make 3 films about space exploration. One was called Man in Space.
Here to introduce you to this new series is Walt Disney. In our modern world, everywhere we look, we see the influence science has on our daily lives. Discoveries that were miracles a few short years ago are accepted as commonplace today. Many of the things that seem impossible now will become realities tomorrow.
Just a couple years later, in 1958, NACA is transformed into NASA, and the space program begins with projects like Mercury and Gemini. In 1966, filmmaker Stanley Kubrick meets with NASA employees as well as Arthur C. Clarke. Pretty damning photograph. 3 years before the first moon landing, Kubrick just happens to be running with NASA and a well-known author of science fiction books, who also predicted satellites in 1945. Arthur C. Clarke's work includes Childhood's End, which was made into a 3-part series on Sci-Fi Channel in 2015. Very interesting series with so-called aliens, but they look like the epitome of Satan, and they come to usher in the new golden age for humanity.
There is no need to be afraid.
In 1968, Arthur C. Clarke wrote 2001, A Space Odyssey. It was developed concurrently with Stanley Kubrick's film version. Fun fact, between 1968, when the movie was made, and 2001, when the movie takes place, that is exactly 33 years. They did the exact same thing with 9/11. The Twin Towers began construction in 1968, and they were knocked down in 2001, exactly 33 years later. Anyway, this not only served as practice for Stanley Kubrick, as he was given pointers on how space should be portrayed by Arthur C. Clarke, but this was also mental conditioning for the masses. 2001: A Space Odyssey was the #1 movie in the box office in 1968. And 1 year later, in 1969, Apollo 11 claims to land men on the moon for the first time. President Richard Nixon called Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin from the White House to congratulate them.
Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out. Well, Neil and Buzz, I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. Thank you, Mr. President.
Meanwhile, I can't get cell phone service in the mountains here in Colorado. Apollo 12 lands men on the moon for the second time. Then in 1971, both Apollo 14 and 15 successfully land men on the moon. In 1972, both Apollo 16 and 17 also successfully land men on the moon. So that's 6 successful moon landings between 1969 and 1972. And it just suddenly stops there. In 1981, Masonic television, aka MTV, begins, starting right off with the usage of Apollo footage and continuing to use the Apollo program as their theme to further condition the masses on a wide scale, especially the younger generation. Make the Apollo missions cool and hip. Apollo missions, they're the hip thing to do. If MTV wasn't ran out of a Masonic temple, it wouldn't be such a dead giveaway, but they do, and it so happens that many NASA astronauts and employees are Freemasons. Now it's 2018, and nothing has happened since 1972. It's been just over 45 years, and that's a lot of time to be stagnant after 6 back-to-back moon landings. Get this, not only did NASA lose the telemetry data for all the moon landings, but NASA now claims that they lost the technology that got them to the moon in the first place.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
This is why we can't go past low Earth orbit, according to them.
You know,
Right
that's
now,
such an interest.
we only can
people,
fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
And this is really the beginning, I think, of human beings leaving low Earth orbit.
But I have a hunch as to why we can't leave low Earth orbit. Dome, 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 dome. Dome, 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 dome. Yeah, so they have conceived this idea of a layer of radiation that acts as an impenetrable barrier. It's called the Van Allen radiation belt, and it's code for the firmament. Another thing is that this radiation belt was present for the Apollo missions, so how did they manage to make it through? Let's ask Apollo astronaut Alan Bean.
Any ill effects from the Van Allen radiation belts?
No, now I'm not sure we went far enough out to encounter the Van Allen radiation belt. Maybe we did.
Beginning at an altitude of 1,000 miles and extending an additional 25,000 miles, lay lethal bands of radiation called the Van Allen radiation belts. Every space mission in history with humans on board, from both the United States and Soviet Union, from the first in 1961 to the present, has been well below this deadly radiation field. Mercury, Gemini, Soyuz, Skylab, the Space Shuttle, all maintained altitudes well below 1,000 miles. All except Apollo.
I don't know the distance to the Van Allen radiation belt, and if we did, it wasn't a problem. If we were going to encounter it, then we would have had to build the spacecraft, the spacesuit to not give humans a problem. You don't just build something and hope it works. You study to see what the threats are, the environment is, and then you say, how thick do I have to make the metal of the spacecraft so that going through this kind of radiation or these kind of meteoroids, it won't get hurt. And so then we build it that way.
The belts are 1,000 miles to 25,000 miles above the Earth.
Then we went right out through them.
No effects on your cells?
Didn't even know it. I don't think anybody, well, maybe somebody said you went through the radiation belt, but we didn't feel it inside, and we didn't get any, added radiation.
So you see, Team Apollo didn't know about this deadly radiation belt that would have killed them, so they weren't affected by it. Another interesting aspect of space travel is that it's not possible because thrust and combustion are not viable in a vacuum. Let's review a couple of experiments in a vacuum chamber that prove what I am talking about. First experiment, thrust in a vacuum.
You see when I turn the fan on, it blows the feather all over the place. This is, of course, at atmospheric pressure right now. So since we're at Martian air pressure, let's unplug the vacuum pump and let's turn on this fan. And place your bets as to what's going to happen to this feather. Now the fan's only going to produce maybe 10 miles per hour worth of wind. On the surface of Mars, the fastest recorded wind speed is about 70 miles an hour. But let's say the superstorm in the Martian had wind speeds of 200 miles an hour, 20 times what we have here. To compensate for that, I imagine the feather is about 20 times easier to push over than a spaceship. So let's see what happens. Okay, the fan's on. And the feather's not moving. Actually, zoom in on that.
Thrust does not work in a vacuum, and thrust would be needed to traverse outer space. Second experiment, combustion in a vacuum.
This is a mixture of sugar, potassium nitrate, and iron oxide. This is used in amateur rockets because the ingredients are readily available and the amount of thrust it produces is quite high. So, let's light this on fire and see how it does. So this is in Earth atmosphere. As you can see, it burns rather rapidly, producing a little bit of thrust even. As you can see towards the end, it moved it around. So now let's try it inside of a vacuum. No ignition. That's interesting.
Combustion does not work in a vacuum. This is a very big deal. Space travel falls on its face and breaks it, then dies with these two vacuum chamber experiments. Thanks, Cody's lab. Outer space is an occultist dream. In the same way that Jack Parsons was obsessed with magic, so too was Walt Disney. You can see it throughout his work with the likes of Fantasia, and you can still see it to this day with how they advertise for Disney.
With Disney innovation and magic behind them, Disney DVDs are breathtaking, fun, interactive. A world filled with magical entertainment awaits you. The magic is at your fingertips. Disney DVD. Pure digital magic.
Welcome to a whole new world of Disney magic. Pure digital magic.
The magic of Disney this, the magic of Disney that, the Magic Kingdom. They even have a Disney cruise ship called Magic. And just like Jack Parsons, Walt Disney was fascinated by rockets. Which in the occult circles are modern-day obelisks. Obelisks are erected all over the Earth plane, and they symbolize domination, power, and political authority. The word obelisk translates to Baal's shaft, Baal as in the god, or lord. Therefore, an obelisk is a penis. Speaking of penises, in the movie Toy Story, Woody and Buzz come into contact with references to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. You can see it here on the carpet. It's the same carpet from The Shining, and they did this on purpose. There's a reference to room 237 when Woody is using the computer. Another one on the garbage truck license plate. And another on the cameras in the daycare center. This one even says Overlook, the hotel that The Shining took place in. The Shining was Stanley Kubrick's way of saying that he filmed the moon landings. In the movie, there are references to thanlk, the drink that the astronauts took to the moon.
Astronauts to the moon.
Little Danny wearing an Apollo 11 sweater and heading for room 237. Another funny thing about Toy Story is that Tom Hanks plays Woody, and the year it came out is the same year that Apollo 13 came out, with Tom Hanks as the lead. And Tom Hanks also was the executive producer, meaning that he was the main producer behind a project for a 1998 miniseries called From the Earth to the Moon. it's pretty clear that Disney and NASA are connected.
Buzz, I can't believe you were actually in space.
Yeah, it's true. I was the first space ranger to visit the International Space Station.
Way to go, Buzzarino!
Let me show you.
It was a fantastic program between NASA and Disney to send Buzz up and did a tremendous education program, you know, for children all over the world, and I was so proud.
So when you're looking at this timeline, this is the timeline of deception with the space programs of the world, pretending like outer space is a real thing. And you can add in 1928, Richard E. Byrd started exploring Antarctica, and he explored it for years and years and years, and in 1956 was his last expedition to Antarctica. So we can add those two things to the timeline, and just 3 years after Richard Byrd's last expedition to Antarctica, the Antarctic Treaty was established in 1959, just 1 year after NASA was founded. So when you really look at this and pay attention to all this stuff as a whole, you can see that we're being lied to. It seems that they have found the limitations for how far we can travel on this Earth plane and how high we can go in the sky. But don't just take my word for it. I want you to research this, whether you believe.
Okay, I will do the research. Yes, and I've done a lot. And one thing I'm sure of, boy, we've been lied a lot, haven't we? Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.